religion provides a package deal, doesn't it? It provides this hope of eternal salvation, it provides meaning in life, it provides the answers to all of life's questions, including strange things that it shouldn't be answering questions to, raising questions that don't have to even be there. But it also provides answers to things that are genuine, really truly genuine human needs. And that's something that is important to recognize. We really do have genuine human needs. And so when you leave your religion, it's helpful to look at the different things that your religion was satisfying for you, and look at what are some of these things that continue to be important. What needs to be let go of? Like maybe you need to let go of what's going to happen after I die, because we honestly don't know. And to really focus on that question is kind of an invented problem, you know. We kind of talked about that. That sort of builds on the fear of the unknown, and then here's the problem and here we have the answer, right? So maybe that's something that we can work on letting go of and be in the present. But some of the other needs are quite real, aren't they? And this goes to that page that you only did half of, okay? If you look at the back of that page, it says, what are some of the continuing needs that I have, and how can I meet them in the present? And what that means is that of all these things in the religion, which ones of them are still real human needs that are legitimate, and how can I meet them now? And one of them is community. And this relates to what I was saying about the evolutionary psychology too. The fact that we're tribal. The fact that we're tribal. We do need support groups. We do need groups of people that we can relate to. We have a very, very strong urge to belong. And we have a strong urge to be approved of. There's nothing terrible about that. People worry about that all the time. Oh, I wish I didn't care what other people think. You know? It's back to that thing of, oh, I don't care, you know, fuck y'all, I'm going out and I'm a rugged individualist. And, no, you care what other people think, because that's how we're wired. That's how we survived in the wilderness. We care about how each other think, and then we are able to take care of each other a lot better that way. So this is one of the remaining needs that we have, is our need for community. And it's really okay. You don't have to feel guilty that you still need people. And so, like some of the other needs that we've talked about, isn't it helpful to kind of know, like, oh, it's normal?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's normal. I don't have to panic that I still need people. I don't have to panic that I still care what people think about me. I can take that into account, realize, for example, that I'm not on the plains of Africa. I don't need to worry about every little thing, about what people think of me, and run back to a cave. I don't need to cling to a group of people for survival. It's not that extreme. But my brain, which thinks it's living on the savannah and living in a cave with people, and has to have a tribe and has to have approval all the time in order to make it to the next day, it's not that extreme. Still, you can take that instinct, that urge, and translate it into, oh, okay, that's what's going on. And maybe it's okay to still have some of that feeling and some of that need and some of that comfort, some of that satisfaction with having friends and having people that you can be around that understand what you're talking about and can communicate with, so that you're not just in your head. But that's really actually normal. So, what can you do about it if you don't have the old church to go to every Sunday?
You can make friends.
How do you do that?
Coming to a retreat is one way.
Join a meetup.
Okay, this is a promo for Journey Free Retreats.
We'll
Are
be
you gonna
your
have-
friends.
Are you
your
going to have
friends are
part 2
right.
and 3?
Pardon me?
Are you going to continue?
We will have advanced retreats, yes. Yes, if you pass the test and graduate from this one.
Doing things that you really, really like, and you know, going where people go. You can do meetup or like join a group for, I don't know, if you're into stuffing animals. Join a taxidermy group. I don't know, you know what I mean? I'm just saying.
Yeah, or take a class or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Or go to
like,
school again.
yeah.
Can feel
Take a course
really
online.
discouraging though when you
Definitely.
you go to meetups and you want to connect to people and you feel like you're just being overlooked, or maybe you're seeing these people every week but it's not translating into a real friendship. So I think for me that was something where I started out with high expectations, like I'm going to go to these groups and I'm going to make friends this way, and then I'd come home just crushed because I had trouble talking to people or no one seemed to want to talk to me, and now I did this but I'm home now and still don't have any friends.
Okay. Okay, that's a
I'm
good
not saying
point.
that
That's
she
a
just
Totally
that's a
valid,
good
yeah.
point.
Just
Yeah.
not that, your expectations are, if you have specific expectations, it can be really hard. And
Uh-huh.
sometimes you need to have different expectations. And for me, it took a long time to figure out what I actually like to do, because I've heard this from other people who've left the church. Sometimes you get out and you don't even know what you like to do
Because you
or
have
what you
new
can do.
experiences.
Yeah.
And so for me, it helped a lot when I worked on having experiences of trying things that I might like to do instead of being dependent on other people to become my friends, and therefore I would like to do whatever they like to do.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. Okay, I think we've got some very good points here. To say that you need to, and by the way, if I'm going to use this, like if I'm going to repeat this on YouTube, this is like a really huge subject. So if you don't mind, I'm going to keep names out of it so that I can use it and maybe even post it on YouTube, okay? Is that all right with you?
Mhm.
So I'm going to keep names out of it. We have a comment here that is that we have to get out and make friends, make new friends, and
Can I change that first? I'm not saying like every group that you go to. Like I'm saying play the odds in terms of if you're doing things that you like, enjoying those things, your odds go up of meeting someone who for some reason you just click, and you don't have to be best friends with every human being on the planet, and it's impossible and it's undesirable. But if you're in your bubble, in your world, in your room, in your job, and then you're driving home, your odds statistically are poor.
Yeah.
But if you're getting out and doing things that you actually like, statistically your chances of clicking with someone start to rise.
okay, so just getting out. Getting out and increasing your odds of meeting people that you can meet that are not the religious people that you've been close to before. So I'm glad you added that, because for some people the expectations can be really high.
Sure.
And I think one of the reasons, and I think that some of the maybe you can help me with this, Lorena. In the Mormon circles, I think you mentioned to me, or maybe it was somebody else. I used a name. Sorry.
Leave
No
it.
one
Anyway,
can
you-
pronounce it anyway.
Huh?
No one can pronounce it anyway. It's like a bullhorn when we're editing.
That sometimes, well, within a lot of churches, there's really not much skill required, because you go there, you have common ground, you have so much common ground that you don't have to have much skill involved with making small talk, with asking people what they're interested in, with the friend-making stages of getting to know people, because you're right in, and in fact, you're right in. Like if you're in a Sunday school class, or you're in a youth group, or you're in an adult group that's doing something like missionary work or whatever, you're right into the thick of it with pretty high level subject matter, you know, like the meaning of life. So that's very, very different from a secular situation where there are more warming up stages of getting to know folks. And so I know that with a lot of people, when they're faced with the secular process that's a lot slower, they get a little confused about how you actually go through that. Does anybody relate to what I'm saying?
Yes. Like you could meet somebody and for the first time they go, "So, do you believe in God?" It's like, actually that's a very personal question and I'm just getting to know you. And, but people in the religious realm think that they can go right to the heart and skip all of the niceties, caring.
Yeah. I remember, like, in my second ministry in college, like, I would, like, I'd be talking about, like, a new friend I made in class, and, like, there was this one girl who would always interrupt, and then be like, "Do they love the Lord?" And I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like...
And that seems to matter, whether they're enemy or friend.
Yeah.
They want to know
are
who
they part of the
hate.
tribe, or are they not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really all it is. Right?
And then with dating, there's this idea that you date for the purpose of finding a mate.
Right.
You
Not
don't
for
just go
pleasure.
out to have a nice time with somebody. At least in certain kinds of religious groups. You're not supposed to just, much less have sex. But it's not a friendly kind of, I'd like to get to know people and work up to it gradually. So that
And
the
the
emotional
perfect one,
part,
too,
the
the perfect
emotional
mate.
getting to know someone is a gradual process. And what we know in the research in human development, which is actually what my doctorate's in, there's something called CRs, close relationships, and there's a lot of research on it. And what we know is that relationships build by a reciprocal process of self-disclosure. One person shares a little, another person shares a little, another person shares a bit more, the other shares a bit more. And it gradually builds to where you become more and more intimate with what you know about each other. And what happens if one person shares a whole lot and the other person shares a very little, like maybe it's starting to feel like an interview, right? And then you come away with one person feeling like they just got through spilling their guts and feeling weird about that, and the other person comes away feeling like they got to know everything about them, but they didn't get to tell anything about themselves, and they don't feel known, right? It's totally unbalanced. So what really works is a mutual balanced kind of sharing, but it has to be gradual. And unbelievably, this is actually a research finding. People don't know that social science really is a science. It's not just an armchair analysis.
Makes
So,
sense, though.
but in religious circles, you don't need to really bother so much with some of that gradual stuff, because you can make huge assumptions about what you already share.
When I was in Christian high school, we were told that any two single Christians should be compatible if they were focused on God. It was the triangle thing. Did they tell you the triangle thing?
Oh my God.
So basically, you have two people at the bottom of the triangle and God at the top. And the closer they get to God, the closer they are to each other. So they don't have to worry about trying to get close to each other.
No
They
contact.
only have to worry about
That's-
getting closer to God.
That's so much pressure, too.
Yeah,
that, like,
I
I need to
remember
hand it off to
seeing
this
that.
person right off the bat.
And once they're at, getting closer and closer to God, then they're naturally closer to each other. So they'll be naturally compatible and able to be in a relationship.
That religion just separates us on so many levels from
Yeah.
each other. We
Yeah.
can't even connect anymore without going through some.
Well, there's all this. There's the emphasis is on for intimacy is a vertical one with God, isn't it?
Yeah,
You're supposed to be
right.
close to
It's
God
Yeah.
and Jesus, and then with each other it really is minimized so much. And what's weird to me is that even in a Christian wedding ceremony, it's as if it's going to be a three-way. You know, I mean, God is supposed to be the center of this marriage, blah, 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 blah.
Ew.
And it goes on like that. And it's a very, very, very strange. If you've been away for a long time and then you go to a Christian wedding, that sort of Christian wedding, it sounds very odd.
Speaking to what Molly was talking about, maybe some of you can relate to this. I remember, especially back in high school, I felt guilty that when somebody didn't have a friend, that I'm supposed to be the guy that is their friend. And I think I just want to say, like, certain people are more compatible, and it's okay to pick and choose who you feel the most attracted to in a friendship term. You don't have to be mean to people, but can you talk about that? Because I think that I still have a little bit of that.
Oh, like you're responsible for other people's well-being?
Just a slight, maybe, caretaking thing that isn't a bad trait to have, but I'm remembering that it took me a while to go, I actually prefer hanging out with this person just because I do, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not like.
Well, you know, it reminds me, and I don't know if this is related for you, but it reminds me about how in the Christian framework, people aren't actually people that are just valuable in and of themselves. They're always objects. They're either objects of fellowship, or if they're non-Christian, they're objects of temptation or objects of conversion. You're supposed to get to know them, and sometimes there's this chit-chat with people, like especially if you're on a mission, you're chit-chatting with them, pretending to care about them and about their lives, but actually you're just trying to find an in.
Yeah, because they're a project.
In order to witness to them, and so you're caring about them and you're acting nice to them and all this, but you have an agenda. You constantly have an agenda. And maybe also, even if you don't actually come out with, do you want to know the Lord, you still are acting really nice so that you can be an example, you can be a light, you can be letting your light shine. And so, and so if you drop all of that and you're just going to be letting people be ordinary people, you can stop having this agenda. And I think that can be kind of related, you know. People are responsible for their own lives, which doesn't mean that you can't be nice and reach out a hand. In fact, it's easier to reach out a hand and be nice to somebody if you don't have an agenda. Don't you think?
Yeah. It was called
You're
relationship.
not doing it as an ulterior motive.
It was called relationship evangelism when I was in the Navigators, the second group I was in, and I remember feeling like, God, that's so fucked up. Like, that's seeing a relationship as a means to an end.